What's happening, guys? Welcome back to Born Offside. We missed you, but it's been less than 24 hours because we're back again.
We go again.
Hump day.
No
midweek.
rest.
So nice.
No rest time.
That's what it's all about. No rest. No rest because we left you guys for a long time.
We owe it to you.
We
guys.
owe it to you. We're back.
We
We're
do.
back with a bang.
I love
This
it.
is the FIFA World Cup. We haven't spoken to you guys since the World Cup. We were all working on the World Cup on at least 1-2 programs. We were everywhere during it. So we thought we'd owe it to you guys to actually sit down, chat about the biggest sports competition in the world, what we were doing during it as well. The FIFA World Cup. Now, I want to, before we even start this episode,
Oh, I've got something to say before we even start this.
I think I know what
What's
you're going to say.
that?
And I think it's what I was going to say. What are you going to say? You're going to concede defeat. You're going to concede defeat.
You know what? I thought about this for a very, very long time, right? And I was like, Claudes was right.
Thank you. Do you remember what I said on Born Offside maybe
I
a
said-
year ago?
I said, you know what? International football is
Oh,
maybe more powerful.
It is.
I
than
want to be
club football.
completely honest. I have had the same revelation.
I don't know if we're doing
Goats.
recency bias though,
It's
but I was
the
just like,
goats.
when it happened, I was like, there
Let's-
was a moment where in the World Cup, I was like,
I do remember you saying to
Claudes
me
was right.
as well.
It is, man. Nothing's like international
I
football.
had this epiphany, and I was
Yeah.
You
like,
know what?
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I think our opinions stemmed as well from the fact that, like, in the last 4 years, we've gone through a pandemic.
Yeah.
Life completely changed.
Mm.
Club football was like that thing that kind of you had to look forward to.
Kept
We
you
didn't
going.
have World Cup football. I honestly forgot how good it is.
Yeah, because-
and then having it back has been the best thing ever.
I'm not an idiot. Club football at the highest level, we're talking Champions League semis and finals. That is the best quality of football you'll ever find.
Yeah.
True.
Because it's the best players in the world,
Yeah.
regardless of where they're from. They're all bought. They're worth $1 billion. They all play on the pitch at the same time. It is the best quality football, right?
Absolutely.
But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the
No.
vibe when your country's playing. Look at Morocco. Look at
Wow.
Argentina when they won 5 million people. Look at what Australia did. Club football doesn't do that.
You're right, Claudes.
You know?
You're right, man. And it took for me to see what the World Cup did for Australia to kind of be like, okay, now this
Do
is
you think-
some movement. It's not even like
Has that actually maybe had more of an impact on you?
I
Being
think it-
English, right? The
yeah.
England team, football's so important over there. Like, it's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
part of the conversation. Here, we're still fighting a little bit for football to be part of that mainstream
and
conversation.
I think that's why it was so powerful for me to see it. Even though I was working in it as well, I was able to experience it, and it was just like, wow, everyone is watching this. Everyone around the world, everyone in Australia. Melbourne was going off. Sydney
Federation
was going
Square.
off. It was just, I was just like, this is. There's no words to describe it. There's no other sport on the world. And I also felt a bit lucky that I was like, I played the sport and I'm involved in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because imagine if I just played like, I don't want to take the piss, but like cricket or something. I shouldn't do that. But I was like, I would never
enough.
ever be able to be
okay,
involved.
the Ashes
Do you
doesn't
know what-
build the same kind of
do you know
conversation.
what I mean?
It's
I'd
true.
never ever be able to be involved in something that stops the world.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Everyone stops.
No, it's so true. And I've talked about this before, but my friendship group aren't football heads. Like, none of them are really like that focused on it. But it's the one time where our group chats are all
Everyone.
about football.
It's
And
so
I
good.
love that
Yeah.
because the Morocco story gets people talking and Messi winning a World Cup, that gets people talking.
And you know what? I'm not a football snob either.
No.
Like, I dare say, I work in football. It's all I do pretty much every day. But I'm not a football snob. I don't mind if you don't watch much football. When it's World Cup time, I put my arm around anyone
Yeah.
that wants to join the bandwagon.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people like, where were
No,
you when it
like,
was...
welcome.
Nah, man. I,
I
like
agree.
everyone
Come and
jumping
get
on
involved.
board.
I'm a bit like that.
You know, Channel 9, Channel 7, all those guys who don't usually give a
Oh,
shit. That's
I'm a bit like,
fine.
no, you guys are in the wrong. Get out of it.
Dumb,
I'm a
yeah.
little bit like that.
You're a little bit like
I'm
that?
a little bit like
You're a
that.
little bit like that.
I'll admit
I think
that.
when it comes to viewing, I'm not like that. But for
Yeah.
example, like the fact that we all got to work across it in different
insane.
capacities,
Yeah.
It was
I
good.
think that's really special because we've all been working on it for some time,
Yeah.
and it's nice to be able to contribute to the Aussie representation now of the game as
That's
well.
right. Yeah, for
Facts.
those of you who didn't know, obviously we were doing Born Offside. We've been working together for a while, but we got to work together on SBS World Cup Daily. Kat
Which
was also
was hosted by Claude.
was hosted by myself, featured Olan, featured Kat. Kat was also hosting a podcast on beIN Sports. Olan was everywhere to do with the FIFA World Cup on
Yeah.
TikTok. If you opened your app, you would have seen OLANTEKKERS.
Yeah.
Guys, we had a message in from Aesthetic Football, big fan of the pod. We're a big fan of his work as well. Asking us, how was it working with SBS? Any funny stories? I'm going to start with you, Kat, because you did an SBS piece that was quite touching. A lot of
Yeah.
people messaged me about it. I was like, message her about it. A lot of people were really touched by that. It was awesome. How was it working for SBS?
Oh wow! So Claudes is referring to this Les Murray and Johnny Warren tribute that I got to do as that kind of final SBS piece. They're two such important figures in Australian football, and without what they did with SBS, the game wouldn't be where it is today. We probably wouldn't even be working in the sport. We needed characters like that to kind of come through and make it part of that mainstream conversation. But working on that piece was amazing. I learnt a lot, and then I received some great messages as well, just from people that knew Les or knew Johnny and said, you've really done it justice, which was amazing.
That
means
a lot,
SBS, I mean, I grew up watching football through SBS. Without SBS, I wouldn't have known the game the way that I did. And also being multicultural, mixed race background, SBS was always that broadcaster that understood that and spoke a language that I understood. And I think working for them is like the pinnacle. For me, it's almost a pinch yourself moment, right? And I'm sure it's the same for you, Claudes, being Italian Australian. I have no doubt that SBS had a similar impact on you as well.
Yeah, definitely. No, it meant the world. It was a milestone in the career. But what meant so much to me was to sit back and kind of plan that show. And when we first kind of got offered it, we said, well, let's bring the whole crew. Let's put the whole crew on it. You know, so to sit back and watch an episode where, okay, I'm hosting, it's great, but it's like Adamo, one of my best mates for 13 years, he's in Qatar with fans.
Who killed it over there.
Oh, let's talk about Adamo segment as well.
You know what I mean?
Legend.
Then Kat Sass rolls in, Wazza rolls in, Kat Haddad rolls in, Olan's hanging out with fans, and we got Adriana Del Monte on the ground, and Martin Tyler's having a chat, and Harry Kewell's sitting next to me, and it's like, man, I was sitting there watching that going, this is sick.
There was so many pinch me moments during that month. Like even the day that Harry Kewell came in and I found myself chatting to him for like 10 minutes.
You guys were like besties by the end, eh?
Oh, Harry Kewell's
looking at him
top
and
bloke.
I'm thinking, am I actually just talking to Harry Kewell right
and
now?
like Kat was like trying to be all cool.
Oh, I wasn't cool.
Kat was like full chatting about, just for work.
Just
He's like
this
deep
and
down
that.
inside, she was like screaming.
Yeah,
I could see it.
I was. But
I love that.
that was just the start of what was an amazing month of meeting really cool people and even seeing you, Olan, like at the casino filming with fans, and Danny was doing it with you. It was really cool to see that it wasn't just an in-studio thing. We were having that impact.
Well, I want to talk to you
around the
about
community
that,
too.
Olan, because you were hanging out with fans, right? Croatia, Serbia, England, Argentina, French, Aussie fans. I'm not sure if I've missed any, but what was the best fans you hang out with?
Oh, don't do that to me, because they all message me and be like, oh, let me I can't pick one.
Was there a moment that made you like that I think took you back the most, or
I can't pick one, but I will say, even the Serbian and the Croatian community, the way they embraced us coming in, and made me feel welcome. It just shattered all my stereotypes of how I might think a Croatian person might behave or how I think a Serbian person might behave.
You know what I liked about that? I remember when we were sending you to like very soon after each other. We know Croatia, Serbia, we know the rivalry. We sent you with the Croatian fans and you had an awesome time there. And then like 3 days later, we're sending all that with the Serbian fans. And I was a bit worried. I was like, I don't know, because he was in a Croatian jersey a few days ago. But all they tried to do was just show you their culture.
That was pretty much it. I can't even remember what their shot was called. It was their shot that...
Rakia, yeah?
Rakia, that was it. And it was funny because I met someone yesterday. We'll talk about... Coogee Pub and stuff, but I met someone yesterday that was like at the Coogee Pub that was like, hey Olan, I'm Serbian, you know that Serbian pitch you did? Amazing. Loved it. You showed everyone about Serbia. He was like, I was talking to my uncle and he said, you know what, that OLANTEKKERS guy, it's a good bloke. And I was like, he doesn't even like TikTok, he doesn't like, but he said, he came down, he's like, he's a good bloke. So
you know what though?
It was impacting their culture as well.
Jokes aside with, what you're saying, there's so much truth in that. Having someone like yourself go down there and show like the reality of those communities and that we only see the really negative stuff in mainstream media. The reality is the average fan is nothing like that. They're just out to have a good time. They're passionate about their country and their players and all of that. And you showed that.
And football's a good opportunity to do that, right? Like football taught us that cultures are cool. It doesn't have to be your culture, right? This is the thing. You're used to seeing like Croatian people hanging out and doing Croatian things. It's nice to see Olan, an English guy, Nigerian background, going down to a Croatian club and he's having an awesome time. Like, why can't we for a day just go, hey, we want to go hang out with the Crows today and eat their food and chavapi and drink rakia? Why not?
No,
you don't just have to stick to your bloodline. You can try everything.
100%.
Have fun.
So true. And then Bonnie Rig tries to sign you.
Still trying to talk on that.
They want them diags,
Still trying to talk on that deal. I don't know if they can afford me, but speaking that one later.
They want them left peg diags. Let's talk a bit about the FIFA World Cup itself, the highs. We're going to get
So
some highs,
many.
some lows. Let's talk about the highs.
Yeah.
And when I talk about the highs, besides Miss Croatia, which we've spoken a little bit about Miss
She's
Croatia.
very high.
I know Olan made a video about some of the cameramen and their work that they've done during the World Cup.
Yeah.
But let's
Community service.
community service for all of us at home.
Put it out there.
Let's talk about Argentina. They win their third World Cup, right? Was the initial loss to Saudi Arabia a blessing?
Because to be fair, I was there.
Yeah.
So I was there.
You were with the fans
I was
on that
with those-
day.
I was with those Argentina fans, and it did. I think it was a wake up call to like,
Yeah.
if you guys don't wake up, this World Cup could pass you by. And that Saudi Arabia team was no walkover. That was a good Saudi Arabia team.
Yeah.
They had to really, really buck up their ideas.
Well, we
after
played
that.
them in qualifications as
Yeah.
well.
We
So
learned that
it
the
was-
hard way,
for me, I think it did almost do a service for them and catapult them into what they did now.
Yeah.
You know?
You know what? I feel like it foreshadowed what was a difficult campaign for Argentina.
Yeah.
None of their wins were easy. And I found it fascinating because similar to Olan, even though he was with fans, the BN Sports show that I was on, I tried to find a guest for every episode who had some relevance to the fixtures that were on. So we had G.O.A.T.
Yeah.
Football
Massive
on.
RG. Yeah.
Yeah,
What are you
and
saying?
I believe he came on after the loss to Saudi Arabia, but before the next game. And the way that he talked about the team didn't change. He
Right.
was just very like, no, a loss is fine. He didn't panic.
Yep.
I think he just knew the potential of that squad. And I think it was a reminder too that winning every game isn't everything. It's winning the right game.
Yeah.
And doing it the right way.
Well, we had Ellie on the show for our World
Yeah.
Cup preview, right? Ellie Menjum.
I thought about him.
Right now, Ellie went to Argentina to
Oh,
experience
yes.
the knockout phases, but
So his story is wild.
man, I had him on the World Cup show. I had him on SBS after Argentina's loss, and he came in, and I knew he'd back in the UK where because he's got a gambling account, whatever, in the UK. He put money on Argentina to win the World Cup. But then he came into the studio after Saudi Arabia's loss. I'm like, bro, how you feeling? Like, how you feeling about your bet? He goes, mate. I called my mate back home. I said, double it. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I said, double it because the odds went up and they're still winning
That's
this World Cup.
incredible.
And look at Ellie, wherever Ellie
Wow.
is, he's probably out
eating that.
partying
He's
right now.
eating that.
The crazy thing about Ellie, if you listen to that episode with Ellie, he had that plan that about halfway through the World Cup tournament, he would go to Argentina
Yeah.
because he's like, they're going to win.
He just knew.
If you asked him, it wasn't a question of if,
Yeah.
it was they are
They're
going
going
to
to win. It was written in the stars for him.
It was written in the stars. He had
Yeah.
no doubt from beginning to
That
end.
he's releasing a doco, right?
Yeah,
That's gonna be
it's gonna be off
wild
its chain.
doco.
He got his phone pickpocketed after 15 minutes of the final whistle, the
Wow.
final. So he lost his phone. Did you hear that? He had
I
mad
did.
I saw the
photos.
tweet, I saw
Yeah,
the
he lost. He got pickpocketed.
Remember that-
That's the beauty
Yeah,
of Buenos
but-
Aires. You got to take the good with the
Yeah,
bad when
to
you
go-
travel to
You know what
Argentina.
though? Ellie needed a new phone.
Yeah, exactly. You take it as a blessing. I want to talk about the manager because I think there's so much noise about Leo Messi. Sometimes, for such a young manager, Scaloni, a bit underrated for me because after those first few games, he sacked Lautaro Martinez. He brought in Enzo Fernandez in midfield. He brought in Julian Alvarez up front. I don't think Argentina win the World Cup if Julian
Without
Alvarez
those.
doesn't play because Messi walks 5 kilometers a game. Think about the gaffers that have
Emphasis
got.
on walks.
That is
Think about the gaffers that have gotten up you.
Well, what was
Right.
it? What was it? I think what's his name said it. One of the hosts that you had on your show. What's his name? Bozza.
Yeah.
He said Martinez said to him. You remember that story?
Yeah.
He said Martinez said they had a meeting with all the Argentina team and they basically said, "Listen, are you all prepared to run your fucking ass off
For him.
and let him walk?
Yeah.
and we can win this cup."
Yeah.
And they all said, "Yes."
Yeah, exactly.
So
That's
it worked.
incredible.
And it worked,
It's a
right?
mad story.
Because despite him walking, every time he got the ball, he created something. I know we spoke a little bit about this on the last step yesterday, but by winning the World Cup now, is the debate over? I'm not just talking about Messi, Ronaldo. I'm talking about Messi, Pele, Messi, Maradona. Is the debate put to bed now?
It's a tough one because everyone goes, well, everything that we did, which we have to pay respects, Pele did it first. And,
Yes.
and I hear that. I watch the videos and stuff. But I do also like to be like, listen, man, in my era that I've watched, this guy's the GOAT.
Yeah,
And I don't
that's
want to
fair.
hear anything
That's fair.
else.
That's fair.
You can say in your era, when you watch
Yeah.
Pele, well, in my era, when I watch football, when I watch from this guy, there was nobody better than
I
him.
think the beauty of sport is that it's generational
It
and
is.
it evolves.
That's all it
and
is.
you
You're never
you
gonna
have a
agree.
goat of every era.
Yeah.
And it's not a case of
But
necessarily
GOAT stands for greatest of all time. If it was
no, but of all
a hard-
time in their respective era.
Gomt. Gomt would
Of
be
my-
greatest of my time.
Yeah, Gomt.
Right? So he's definitely the Gomt.
I think he's the greatest of all time, man. Times have changed since
Yeah.
Pele was playing. Times have changed since he was doing.
Yeah.
I reckon the game's harder now.
Yeah.
I reckon it is.
Ah, yeah,
There's
he's
that,
a-
and it's
faster,
also
it's
the
quicker.
fact that Pele set the record, right?
Yeah.
He set the tone.
Yeah.
But then to show up and hit that or do better, it's arguably even harder
It's
to
hard
do that.
because you're probably right. Messi's probably the GOAT, but Messi wouldn't be at that level if it wasn't for Pele before him. Like you can only push the pin as far as what's been set before you. So it's a difficult conversation. We spoke to Martin Tyler. I'm flexing here. I don't give a shit. Right? We had Martin
Drop
Tyler
it in there.
We had Martin
What
Tyler
did
on
he
the
say?
show. Probably the greatest commentator of all time, and he was saying, like, for him, Pele will always be the GOAT because that's his generation.
Yeah. That's
him.
He watched Pele,
That's him.
and that was his GOAT, and that will always be his GOAT. Doesn't matter if Messi goes and scores another 1,000 goals,
this
that
is
will
what
always
I'm
be his
saying.
GOAT. Messi will probably always be our GOAT.
Our GOAT.
And one day our kids or our grandkids are going to come to us and tell us
Mbappe,
someone else is the
yeah,
GOAT.
Mbappe might be. I don't
And
know
we're
who
gonna
it
be
will
like,
be. I'm
shut
all be
the
like,
fuck
no. Go pull up them YouTube clips.
Exactly. At least
Messi's
we'll
the
have
GOAT.
YouTube.
Yeah, at least we'll have YouTube.
But I also want to talk about, this is a high for me. It's a low for some people, right? Emi Martinez, probably some of the most proper shithousery we've ever seen.
The toppest of
Firstly,
shithousery.
Argentina.
Starts with his hair.
Well, it starts with his hair, which was disgusting. Right, Argentina were pretty shithouse most tournament against Netherlands. We remember that one. Get me that Wobo, right, in the post-match conference. Even Leo Messi was getting involved. That's when you know it's good.
That's when I got completely beat up by someone in the.
What do you mean
Remember,
you got
we
beat
were
up?
all watching the Netherlands-Argentina game.
Yeah.
And Dan, one of the guys who was working on the team, was standing behind me, and the Netherlands scored.
That last one, that
and
equalizer.
he kneed me right in the back, and I went flying.
shit.
Ouch.
Yeah, I was in the
Far for
wrong
a
place at the
soul.
wrong
Limbs.
time.
It was
So
absolute limbs.
there were limbs flying in that room, and some of them hit me
Ouch.
really hard. And I don't think I'll ever forget that game.
Some people
for
just
that
planned
reason.
it. Like, I'm just going to use this opportunity to show Kat how I
Yeah.
really feel. But what about Martin? He carried on, right?
Yeah.
Look, he
I
did
reckon-
the whole, like, you know,
Yeah.
kind of humping the trophy, whatever he
Yeah.
did there with the golden glove. That was cool. Then he went back to Buenos Aires and he had a baby with Mbappe's
I think
face
that was
on
offside.
it. That's offside, right?
I
He's
reckon
a
that was
bit-
way too
he's
far, bro.
odd.
Come on, the guy still scored a hat trick past you.
I know.
Come on.
Come on,
I
bro.
actually,
Don't
on
take the
that, I
piss.
don't feel like people talked enough about what Mbappe did in that final.
It's crazy.
Yeah, like,
was
come
crazy.
on.
Like,
He
I
scored a
get
hat-trick
that
against
Messi
you,
won
and
a
then
World
you're
Cup.
calling him in a baby like you absolutely, like he didn't score any goals against you.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Yes, you won the
You-
World Cup
you-
because
yeah,
Messi.
you
but
conceded
come on,
3
He scored-
to,
you
to
could have
one
lost
guy.
that
See,
game.
hat trick plus a pen in the shootout.
Plus a pen.
You literally couldn't touch a
There's-
ball.
That he
nothing
touched.
else
Yeah,
he
yeah.
could have done against you.
Yeah,
a
yeah,
hat trick
he
and a
could,
penalty.
Yeah, but
He
I
killed
don't
you.
think, and we've talked about this before, keepers aren't all there.
They're cooked.
You can't have that position
You gotta be
and
cooked.
be 100%.
Facts.
gotta
There's
be
not
And I
one
think
good
Emmy's
normal
a-
keeper that I've
Yeah, Emmy's
met
a
in my
perfect
in
example
my
of
existence.
that.
There's not one.
Yeah, yeah.
They're a bit weird. They're a
I
bit
would-
You've
gone.
got to be a bit cooked.
It's that passion and that, I guess, that camaraderie and that shithousery that got them all the way to a World Cup. So credit to them. We're going to talk some other highs. One of them, Morocco. What a run. Probably the best fans. They made Africa dream as a whole, right? And we know Africa, big continent, lots of different types of people, right? Did you feel inspired by the Moroccan run?
Yeah, I did.
As a Nigerian, Nigeria unfortunately weren't there.
But what it did, and I don't know if we're going to talk about it, was a bit controversial, right? Because it was like, there was a lot of, I don't know, on TikTok and stuff, there was a lot of controversy behind them being African, right? So, because obviously they were obviously of Arabic
Yes.
descent.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like the Middle East, in a sense, was trying to say, well, they're not African, they're actually from
Because they speak Arabic.
Arabic. Do you know what I mean? And then I like it because the Moroccan gaffer came out and said, they asked him a certain question. He said, "You know what? We're African first,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's who we're representing. We're putting on for Africa." So that it did. I loved to see it. You know, no one expected them to go as far as they did, and it was great to see an African team.
There was a quote from him, Rogagui, right? Did a fantastic job with that team. They beat Belgium, they beat Spain, they beat Portugal. What a run, right? There was an awesome quote from him. He started to really rally up as they got to the semi-finals, and he said, they don't want, he was just putting everyone against, you could tell the mentality he would have had with those players. He said, they don't want Africans to play like this. He said that. He goes in a press conference, he said, they want us Africans to turn up here, to do some nice skills, our fans to dance and sing and go home after a couple games. They don't want us Africans, because they were playing very much, they were really rigid.
They were playing
Defensively, they were the best in the competition.
Yeah, 100%.
So he goes, they don't like when Africans turn up and play like the Europeans and beat them at their game. Do you feel
And
that?
also bring the vibe.
And bring the vibe.
Yeah.
Do you feel that? Do you think that people have an
It
expectation on Africans and they get upset if the Africans start to play a different style?
I don't know if they get upset, but there is an expectation. You know, when you think of how when Ghana got far, like it was very expansive football. It was tricks. It was get in the box. It was we could never defend.
Yeah.
We all know that. You know what I mean? When you look at the African teams that got the apart from Morocco, the other team we struggled to defend.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see that they came there with a game plan and they executed. You know, so hats off to them.
I think the interesting thing about Morocco, right? and to what you were
Hakimi.
talking about before with that debate, is that they do have that crossover between Arab and North African culture, because there are communities there that were not influenced by any Arabic migration into the country. They are purely African. They're African communities. And so they were, as somebody who, like, my grandmother's Egyptian, that's 2 countries away, and I'm also Middle Eastern. They're inspiring to those countries as well. Lebanon didn't qualify.
Yeah.
Lebanon have never qualified for a World Cup. But seeing Morocco do what they've done, and the fact that Arabic is their language, they inspire the Arabic nations as well.
In
and
Qatar,
so I think,
of all places.
yeah,
as well.
and you can understand why, like, both are kind of fighting
for that,
Yeah.
because
They both
I think
wanna
you
feel
can just
part of it. They
accept
both
that
wanna celebrate it,
there's an
yeah.
influence across both, and there's
Yeah.
an impact across both communities. So
Okay.
yeah, it's really special. But what Morocco did is amazing. And when I lived in Spain, I met more Moroccan people than I've ever met in my life.
Oh,
So there are
really?
so many
Is there heaps
Moroccan
in Spain?
people
I
there.
Yeah,
didn't
man. And in France, there was 1 million of them in France for that game against France.
That's
Million
why
France.
that, like, the Portugal, in the south of Portugal, it's so close to Morocco.
Yeah.
Similar with the south of Spain, but even in Barcelona, I made a lot of Moroccan friends, and it was really cool to see how proud they were of their people. And a lot of them, their families moved to Spain for a better life. It's the classic kind of story, but they really felt so much passion around their home country, and it's the beauty of football, right? That it can do that.
Yeah.
And I loved seeing that whole journey.
Well, it was great to see so many great players who are now on the shopping list. A lot of Europe's elite are looking at some of those Moroccan players, and they're going to cash in for a lot of cash. Olan seems to think Hakimi and Mbappe are in a relationship.
All right, whoa.
Allegedly.
That was producer
I'm pretty
Shabs.
sure that was Shabs.
I think about he's in
Producer
relationship with
Shabs.
Giroud.
Yeah. Oh,
Of that photo they took together, very Titanic-esque.
Yeah, the Titanic. But there is no, I think me and my boys were talking about it on PlayStation. There is no position on the pitch or whatever happens that you should be looking deep into a man's eyes like that. There is no celebration that requires
What do you
that.
mean? They just scored at a World
No,
Cup,
I don't
man.
give a fuck.
They
I don't
just
give a
scored at World
shit.
Cup.
There is, I've won some cups, right, in my shit career,
And you've
and
never
never ever have I
looked over.
looked
And
into
you've
a
never
man's
gazed
eyes
into a man's eyes like that?
So it's
No,
crazy.
no,
It's crazy.
no.
It's crazy.
Oh, God. We'll leave
Mbappe
you
dumped his girlfriend though, didn't
His girlfriend, yeah, he did.
he? Yeah.
I think he did.
she saw the photo
She shot the photo.
What photo?
of him with Giroud and said,
Oh,
don't do
yeah,
that.
yeah, you
You
never
don't do
looked
that
at-
for me.
You don't look at me like
I,
that.
Well, I heard just that he was getting too much slack from it, so he just
That's
Yeah.
pretty sad,
That
to be
sucks.
honest.
canned it. That's what I heard.
I feel like Mbappe wouldn't care about that. Like, you're at that level, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
you're at that level where you shouldn't care, but
yeah.
who knows?
Oh,
Yeah,
well.
who knows?
Well, he's on top of the world. He showed that once again at the World Cup,
Sure
taking home
is.
the Golden Boot. Another thing I want to talk about, a high. I think this was a high of the World Cup, but I don't know what you guys think. I want to ask your opinion. The amount of stoppage time. On average, they played an average
Yeah.
of 11.6 minutes of extra
Wild.
time per game, onside or offside.
Listen, I will never forget that first England game where there was 10 minutes at its time, and I was
Yeah.
like, "What is this?"
Yeah, yeah.
But it was kind of like new. But after you got used to it, because each World Cup game, you're like, "Oh, it makes sense. It makes sense."
Yeah.
It was. I kind of liked it.
You liked it, yeah?
And I think there was one stat in the Premier League. I think it was a Newcastle game.
I've got that here for you.
Where it said,
Arsenal Newcastle.
"Yeah, what did it
Ball
say?
was in play for 51 minutes and 23 seconds.
So if you're a Newcastle away fan, you travelled to watch your
All
team
that
play
way.
for 51 minutes.
Yeah.
Less than an hour.
Yeah, the rest is just shithousery.
Yeah.
That's football.
That's good and bad. I don't
Yeah,
know.
so
You-
would you like
you-
to see that brought into all the other leagues?
Yeah, Claudes, you were the one who told me why.
Yeah.
It was like
Time
that, and it's
wasting,
because
right?
there was an actual clock that would stop when the ball was not in play.
Yeah.
And so the stoppage time was an exact representation of
How much?
how
time
much
the
was
ball out.
actually needed to be technically replayed, I guess. So on paper, it makes sense, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
a technicality.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense to do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it definitely shocked everyone initially. But I feel like it either lessened over time because teams realized,
Yeah, and teams are just
okay,
playing the
clocks
game.
are
Playing
stopping. We
normally,
need
yeah.
to like
Yeah, yeah,
get
yeah.
the game
I mean,
moving.
as a footballer, Claudes, with the last 10, 15, you're winning 1-0. What
Yeah.
you start doing?
That's what you start doing. Yeah,
start
exactly
wasting
right.
time.
And now you
So
don't.
now
I think
you
also
can't
as,
do
as
it.
you get later in the tournament, you have the better teams who probably don't feel the need to do
True.
that. You know,
True,
early
true.
on, you've got Costa Rica playing someone where they're just going to boot the ball out
Well,
and sit
when
on the
they
floor.
were playing
and-
Spain, I'm sure they wanted to stop
Well,
that
that
ball
was
a couple of
different.
times.
Yeah, it's like Keylor Navas' back was sore from picking the ball out of the net. But that tends to happen. I think, look, football will change in the next 5-10 years, and one of these two will happen. Either that type of stoppage time will come into the game, or the other thing they're talking about is shaving the game from 90 minutes down to 60 minutes with a clock that stops. So every single time. So free kick, clock stops. kicks the ball, clock starts.
Okay, so it's like becomes NFL.
That's the other option. There's
Yeah.
two options. I think I prefer this one. I prefer this added on
I
time.
prefer that.
I
one.
prefer that. I don't know if the world is ready
For
to
that.
change it that
60-minute
drastically.
games.
Even if it means we're
That
still
means-
playing 90 minutes, people will panic.
People will panic.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I
there'll
think
be an
they
What
uproar.
do
should
you
just keep
mean
it.
60 minutes?
Yeah,
There'll
let's-
be an uproar.
Baby steps, baby steps. Well, I think we all agree that's a high. Let's go to the lows of the World Cup. Qatar, not the nation. I mean, I don't know. I didn't go. Dams went. He had a fantastic
He said it
time.
was fine.
He had a fantastic time. I'm
It
talking
looked
about.
like it.
I'm talking about the team, right? Was that the worst host performance you've ever seen?
Yes.
I mean, on paper, it actually is, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It's historically the worst.
At least South
performance.
Africa had Shabalala. You know, they
Yeah,
had
they
that
had-
amazing.
they had some
opening game.
moments, you know?
There was a moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Qatar
No,
had nothing.
yeah, I think. Well, again, I mean, they wanted to host it. They got to host it.
Yeah.
Were they ready to host it? Probably not.
Asian Cup winners, like, was that just stage
I
fright?
don't know how did they win an Asian Cup with that
I
team.
know, right?
I'll admit, and I'm gonna blame Nick Stav for this. I thought that they would do better, and that's because we talked about it
I
so many
tipped them to
times.
go
Well,
on a run.
you as well. You
I
were giving
tipped
it
them
big
to go on a
Claudes.
run.
Claudes was
yeah.
like, you know what? They've invested.
Yeah.
They've
but
done this. They've
you
built
look-
stadiums. They've blah blah
That's
blah.
true though,
Oh,
and
you know what? I
domestically
actually
they
put
play
money on
together.
that
They
'cause
were
the
paying
Claudes
me.
is-
They were paying me. I was on the payroll. I was on the
put
payroll.
money thinking, you know what? I was talking. I was like, you know, nah, Claude knows his stuff. So I put money on
Same.
that. I was like, them to win one or two. Mate, I think I put money on them.
So
to get
you
out
owe
of the group.
Olan money.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
That's
Fair
all
enough.
Claude.
I also said Argentina win the World Cup. Don't know if you listened to that.
Yeah, I did. I
In
got
my
money on that
opinion,
one.
yeah,
Yeah, I got money on
We
that
listened to
one.
that one.
Nah, that got me, man. They sold me with the propaganda. They got me. But look,
We all fell for it.
I don't know where to now for Qatari football. They invested so much for this tournament. Now what? They've got the Asian Cup because China pulled out of hosting
Yeah.
it. So now it's going to be in Qatar.
Oh, really?
They're expecting it to be early 2024. They could go and win
Which
that.
is, does that mean that they're gonna keep everything set up
Probably.
as is? Because I
I'd
know that the
assume so.
plan with those stadiums was to like pack them up
Well, yeah,
and send
didn't
them
you say- yeah,
to
didn't
different places.
Yeah, some of them they're going to get rid of, like
You
the
know,
shipping
it's-
container one.
I encourage you to look up the kind of the plan for those stadiums because
After
it's
the
also
World Cup.
fascinating. Some of them were built out of
Yeah.
like, shipping containers
Yeah,
and stuff. It's,
yeah,
it's like
974.
recycled materials. But
Yeah.
That is
anyway,
wild.
I guess look, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I do agree that if you've put all that resource and infrastructure into Qatar,
Yeah.
host another tournament there. Do it.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to talk about there for the World Cup, it was the last. It was last World Cup for Messi, last World Cup for Modric, last World Cup for Cristiano Ronaldo. We spoke a bit on the main app yesterday about Cristiano Ronaldo. Is this the end of Ronaldo in a Portuguese jersey? He says he wants to play at the Euro in 2024. He's now gone to Saudi Arabia. Is this the end for him playing for
I'd
Portugal?
never write off Ronaldo.
Okay.
He's what 37.
37.
He can still play at the highest level, I believe, and I think he's one of those people where whatever he sets his mind to mentally, he will work towards. And I wouldn't write him off. It just depends, you know, is he right for the team? Will they play him?
there's
He'll
that,
definitely
right?
be ready.
Yeah. Well,
I know that.
That's a big point
What do
because
you-
look
what
at
do you
this
think?
last World Cup campaign. He's not necessarily needed in that Portugal side.
not in that Portugal
They
side.
don't
No.
play him like that. So
Yeah.
it's a question of, is it enough for him to just be included in the squad, or are they actually going to let him play?
He feels like the dream last 20 minutes player. If you need a goal,
Yes.
he's the dream.
Oh,
Right? You throw him
100%.
in, cross the ball in, he'll do something.
You've got a player like that on your team, right?
Who have I got
On
on my team?
Your team,
Kev?
personally, the one you play at
My actual
UNSW.
team? Who's that?
You've got that Chilean
Oh,
guy
my mate
who just,
Christian.
Like, that he can come on at the 80th
Oh,
minute
yeah,
and
yeah,
just
I know.
He's
work
40
the
years
magic.
old.
I know Christian, tiny
He's,
player.
Yeah, he's 40 years old,
And
but he
I
played for
think
Chile.
that that's
He's a freak.
exactly what they should be doing with Ronaldo.
You got to use him right.
But the
I
thing
think
is,
at that
Ronaldo
age.
is not prepared to have that
Do
role.
that. Yeah,
he's not
he
prepared
needs
to have
to
that
That's
role.
the point. It's an ego thing
needs
to
at the
accept
end of the day as well.
Ronaldo's never scored a World Cup knockout goal.
Wow.
Well,
That's a
Messi scored
crazy
his
stat.
first in this World Cup as well.
Knockout
But he
goal.
won it.
But he
and
still
scored a few.
But he still scored one.
What does that do for Ronaldo's head? Craig Goodwin has one.
Yeah.
Hey, wow.
You know? Like,
Wow.
there's a- you know, I'm no
Craig
mathematician.
Goodwin, he's on a different level.
But one is higher than zero. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what happens.
One is higher
Crispy
than
Crispy 04's asked us, did this World Cup prove Mbappe is better than Haaland?
Ooh,
This is where
that's not fair.
This is
That's not-
hard.
That's,
That's
not
so
fair. We can't do
unfair.
that.
Poor man's Norwegian.
We can't do that.
Come on.
We
Norway's
can't-
good for a lot of things,
What
but
is
not for
the-
football.
You know when I can't remember what the rule is, but when you spend a number of years playing in the country, then you can play for the national team. What is
Not if you've already played for the other one. mate.
No, he's
He
done.
could have played for England
That's
because
what
he
I'm
was
saying.
born in England.
He was born in Leeds.
He was born in England. His old man was
Yeah.
playing there. But
Yeah, because I remember that. Because Roy Keane was the one that stood
that
on
brown,
yeah, I know
yeah,
that.
But that's
smashed
not fair, right?
No, we can't
like
do that.
we
We
can't
can't.
we can't base that
We
off
cannot.
something that he physically couldn't attend.
It's like Zlatan. Zlatan played for Sweden.
Yeah.
That killed his legacy a little bit.
Yeah.
But you got to judge him by their club form in
Yeah.
that case.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't.
This is why World Cup's hard. Everyone's like, oh, you can't be the GOAT if you don't win a World Cup. Well,
technically,
Is that only if you play
Haaland
for
can
a-
never win one.
Well, is that only if you play for a big nation and don't win it? Like if Messi had never won it, playing for a country that has won it, that would be shit. Whereas if you're from Australia, let's say Messi was Australian,
Yeah.
would you really judge him if he didn't win the World Cup?
There's a story about how he almost came to Australia.
Yeah, his family.
Well, he's got family in Australia.
Well, they were deciding. A lot of Argentinians came here. They were deciding whether to come to Australia or not, and they didn't end up coming.
Oh my
And
Lord.
Ronaldo even has grandparents. We could
the
have had Messi
could
and
have-
Ronaldo.
What could have been?
We could have
The
had
what
Messi and Ronaldo.
But you could argue that they just never would have been well known.
Well, exactly right.
To be fair, like,
And that's when
coming
we
up in
bring up the
Australian system,
issues with
he would have been-
Australian
He would have been
football.
released by
Wow.
the. He would have been released by the time he was 22.
Anyway,
Well,
we
that's a story for
digress.
tomorrow's episode when
We
we're going to
digress.
talk Australian football tomorrow because we love you guys and we're dropping 3 episodes in 3 days. Last couple of things I want to talk about. I know producer Shab's getting cranky at me because I'm going over time, but I don't care because I love these guys so much, Shabs. So don't rush me, okay? Because I love these guys.
We
and
love him. We love him.
We haven't
Shabsy,
had-
don't turn the fans against you.
No, we haven't had a Born Offside episode in so long, so I want to keep chatting. Another disappointing thing that came out of the World Cup was Belgium.
Oh,
Belgium spent 4 years as the world number one. Is
I
that
think I heard Let Him Shoot say this as well. It's like, were Belgium the biggest L
Yes.
of the World Cup?
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Is that the worst golden generation ever?
Yes.
It has to be.
Just because they were number one in the
KDB's
world.
in that team.
And the
like
fact
KDB
that-
does not even look like a shade of the player that he is in Man City. He doesn't look like the same guy.
Yeah.
Hazard,
Yeah.
Lukaku just coming off his shin. I couldn't
It was
fathom
all-
that team.
Issues within the team as well.
Yeah, they
That's
all
what
hated
people
each other
were talking
apparently.
about.
They all hated each other.
There's
apparently.
this
And
decay-
Lukaku came on and he was terrible in that third game.
Mate.
No.
Look at
It's bad though.
It is because that's a team where you look at on paper and you go, you know what? If they reach semis or if they reach quarters, you go, it's a good team.
Do you know what I was thinking? Identity. I don't think Belgium ever had one. Right? You know when you get the Germans, you know what you expect. You get the Italians, the French, the Spanish. You know what to expect. I never knew what Belgium was a bunch of good players at club level. I never knew what to expect. What is Belgium football? What do they play like?
true.
The manager is Roberto Martinez, Spanish. I personally, and this has been an opportunity for me to dig this one back up. I've always said I think managers should have the same rules as players. I don't think you should be allowed to manage a country if you're not a citizen of that country.
I actually
That is a good. That's
Completely
a
agree
great
with
shout.
Right? Because look at Australia now with Graham Arnold. There's a different level of passion when you have an Australian manager. I looked at L'Equipe, the French paper. They
Yeah.
put the top lists of managers from 1 to 32 at the World Cup. Graham Arnold, number 1.
Really?
According to L'Equipe, Graham Arnold was the best manager at the World Cup. For the squad he had
Fair.
and the value he had,
results.
and he only lost to the 2 teams in the
Yeah,
final.
I know. I was gonna say
That is.
Right? L'Equipe
It
put
makes sense.
Graham Arnold is the best manager at the World Cup.
Okay.
Look at Morocco. They trusted in Ragagi, Moroccan manager. Look at what happened. Look at Japan. In the last 20 years, Japan have mix and matched managers. In the last 20 years, 2006 World Cup, Zico out in the group. 2014 World Cup, Zaccheroni, Italian, out in the group. All the other ones, Japanese manager, out of the group. They made it
out.
through. They made it out of the
I
group.
think it does make a difference.
I think it makes a difference.
I think it does. I mean, you even look at Southgate, yeah, but you could go if
He's done better than you guys have done with Capello,
Yeah, he
with
does.
Sven
Because
Goran
it just
Eriksson.
adds. I don't know how to describe it. Just a different level of passion.
understands the
Yeah,
players,
you
right?
understand
He
it.
can motivate
he
them
knows,
differently.
He knows what it means for you to be in that position.
Yes.
And for me as a manager and what it means to the country as a whole, he knows the culture.
Yeah.
And I think it just
And
adds
there was-
that little 5%.
There was so much noise made about how good Qatar are with this manager that's Spanish and he's been at Barcelona for years. But you
Did
come
it-
down
it-
to it, it's an Arabic World Cup. Did he understand the culture and what it means?
Yeah.
I think that stuff means a lot at the highest level.
I
The
think
only
you're right.
exception is the Portuguese lad, the Portuguese manager that was managing South Korea. He did a good job, got them out of the group. But even that was last second they got out of the group.
Yeah.
I don't want to shit on it, but it was last second.
There's always going to be
An exception.
an exception to
Yes.
the rule, but I think
USA,
for the most
USA
part,
trusted an American manager. Look at that. They
Yeah.
got out of the group as
Yeah.
well. I think that's the way forward.
no, I agree.
I agree,
and
Claude.
I think if you were to ask someone who doesn't know the game, are the managers also from the country? I feel like
They'd be
it just
like-
makes sense
It
that
makes
they
sense.
would be.
If the
right?
players have those rules, the managers have
Yeah.
those rules, and you'd stop like Harry Redknapp's going to Jordan and
and
taking
Pep
a huge
Guardiola's going to Brazil.
bag of cash. Exactly right. It's
Yeah.
stupid. Like and it means you got to invest in coaches. Don't just invest in players.
Yeah.
You got to invest in your coaches
I
as well.
completely agree.
Anyway.
No, I actually think that's so valid, and
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense to me. But anyway, that is the FIFA World Cup. It was an incredible experience for all of us. We now look forward to the next World Cup. Of course, we've got the Women's World Cup.
Yes.
That's massive.
Ooh, looking forward to that.
It's
And
here.
that's here.
I don't think anyone
Wait,
realizes
is it in
how big.
I thought it was in New Zealand.
It's
Sorry, I was like, New Zealand.
it's co-hosted between Australia and New Zealand.
Please, I think he's taking the piss.
Yeah.
I do think he's
No,
taking
no,
the piss.
no, I was dead serious. I thought it was just New Zealand, not here.
OLANTEKKERS.
It's both.
There
Is it-
will be
no, it's-
games in Sydney.
Where have you been?
Fuck.
Where have you been?
To get my bag up, I don't know.
Okay,
You know
alright,
what?
we're gonna-
That is a sign that if that was news to you as well, you need to tune into the next episode.
Okay, all right.
Facts.
Well, you do need to tune into tomorrow's episode. But
Yeah.
the next World Cup for the men's is World Cup 2026. It's going to be USA, Mexico, Canada.
Great locations.
I'll be there. I don't know about you guys.
I wanna
Olan
be
will
in
be married with a
Mexico.
couple kids by then, I reckon.
Yeah.
I was looking at. I was like, next World Cup, I'll be in my 30s. I better be doing
Can
something.
you chill? Because I will be too.
Oh shit! Like, will be.
I'll be.
You will be. What was
I
it?
you
just-
will just be 30.
I turned 30 during the next World Cup.
Wow.
During the next, I'm gonna have my 30th over there, so we can trot. We all gotta be there. But look, one of the biggest winners for this World Cup is our part of the world. So Europe because it's expanding to 48 teams. Europe only get 3 extra, but Asia is gonna go from 4+1 to 8+1.
That's
So
right.
Asia's doubling. Good chance Australia make it. Also, very good news for New Zealand because it means Oceania have 1 automatic spot to the next World Cup. So New Zealand is almost guaranteed unless they bottle it to Solomon Islands or something or Vanuatu on their way. So it's going to be awesome. 48 teams, going to be huge. I love international football. You know that. I've converted these two. Hopefully I've
Absolutely
converted
have.
some people from back home. Thanks for joining us here on the Born Offside World Cup special. We were here yesterday. We were here today. We're going to be back tomorrow for an Australian football special. So we'll see you
Oh,
then,
baby.
I'm
guys.
excited.
Ciao.
Bye, guys.